the Mahabharata of Krishna-Dwaipayana Vyasa. Translated into English prose from the original Sanskrit text by Pratap Chandra Roy C.I.E. This free ebook has been downloaded from holybooks.com. Adi Parva. Section 181, Chakraratha Parva continued. Vasistha continued, the Brahmana lady, thus addressed by them, said, Ye children, I have not robbed ye of your eyesights, nor am I angry with ye. This child, however, of the Bhrigu race hath certainly been angry with ye. There is little doubt, ye children, that ye have been robbed of your sights by that illustrious child whose wrath hath been kindled at the remembrance of the slaughter of his race. Ye children, while ye were destroying even the embryos of the Bhrigu race, this child was held by me in my thigh for 100 years. And in order that the prosperity of Bhrigu's race might be restored, the entire Vedas with its branches came unto this one even while he was in the womb. It is plain that this scion of the Bhrigu race, enraged at the slaughter of his fathers, desireth to slay ye. It is by his celestial energy that your eyes have been scorched. Therefore ye children pray ye unto this my excellent child born of my thigh. Propitiated by your homage, he may restore your eyesights. Vasistha continued, hearing those words of the Brahmana lady, all these princes addressed the thigh-born child, saying, Be propitious. And the child became propitious unto them. And that best of Brahmana Risemes, in consequence of his having been born after tearing open his mother's thigh, came to be known throughout the three worlds by the name of Orva, thigh-born. And those princes regaining their eyesights went away. But the Muni Orva of the Bhrigu race resolved upon overcoming the whole world. And the high-souled Rishi set his heart, O child, upon the destruction of every creature in the world. And that scion of the Bhrigu race, for paying homage, as he regarded, unto his slaughtered ancestors, devoted himself to the austerest of penances with the object of destroying the whole world. And desirous of gratifying his ancestors, the RTSM afflicted by his severe asceticism the three worlds with the celestials, the asuras, and human beings. The Pitris then, learning what the child of their race was about, all came from their own region unto the Rishi and addressing him said, Orva, O son, fears thou hast been in thy asceticism. Thy power hath been witnessed by us. Be propitious unto the three worlds. O, control thy wrath. O child, it was not from incapacity that the Bhrigus of souls under complete control were, all of them, indifferent to their own destruction at the hands of the murderous Kshatriyas. O child, when we grew weary of the long periods of life allotted to us, it was then that we desired our own destruction through the instrumentality of the Kshatriyas. The wealth that the Bhrigus had placed in their house underground had been placed only with the object of enraging the Kshatriyas and picking a quarrel with them. O thou best of Brahmanas, as we were desirous of heaven, of what use could wealth be to us? The treasurer of heaven, Kuvara, had kept a large treasure for us. When we found that death could not, by any means, overtake us all, it was then, O child, that we regarded this as the best means of compassing our desire. They who commit suicide never attain to regions that are blessed. Reflecting upon this, we abstained from self-destruction. That which, therefore thou desirest to do is not agreeable to us. Restrain thy mind, therefore, from the sinful act of destroying the whole world. O child, destroy not the Kshatriyas nor the seven worlds. O kill this wrath of thine that staineth thy ascetic energy. Thus ends the 181st section in the Chakraratha Parva of the Adi Parva. The Mahabharata of Krishna-Dwaipayana Vyasa. Adi Parva. Section 182, Chakraratha Parva continued. The Gandharv said, Vasistha, after this, continued the narration, saying, hearing these words of the Pitris, Orva, O child, replied unto them to this effect, Ye Pitris, the vow I have made from anger for the destruction of all the worlds, must not be in vain. I cannot consent to be one whose anger and woes are futile. Like fire consuming dry woods, this rage of mine will certainly consume me if I do not accomplish my vow. The man that repressed his wrath that hath been excited by adequate cause becomes incapable of duly compassing three ends of life, viz., religion, profit and pleasure. The wrath that kings desirous of subjugating the whole earth exhibit, is not without its uses. It serveth to restrain the wicked and to protect the honest. While lying unborn within my mother's thigh, I heard the doleful cries of my mother and other women of the Bhrigu race who were then being exterminated by the Kshatriyas. Ye Pitris, when those wretches of Kshatriyas began to exterminate the Bhrigus together with unborn children of their race, it was then that wrath filled my soul. My mother and the other women of our race, each in an advanced state of pregnancy, and my father, while terribly alarmed, found not in all the worlds a single protector. Then when the Bhrigu women found not a single protector, my mother held me in one of her thighs. If there be a punisher of crimes in the worlds, no one in all the worlds would dare commit a crime. If he findeth not a punisher, the number of sinners becometh large. The man who having the power to prevent or punish sin doth not do so, knowing that a sin hath been committed, is himself defiled by that sin. When kings and others, capable of protecting my fathers, protect them not, postponing that duty to the pleasures of life, I have just cause to be enraged with them. I am the Lord of the creation, capable of punishing its iniquity. I am incapable of obeying your command, capable of punishing this crime. If I abstain from so doing, men will once more have to undergo a similar persecution. The fire of my wrath too, that is ready to consume the worlds, if repressed, will certainly consume by its own energy my own self. Ye masters, I know that ye ever seek the good of the worlds. Direct me therefore as to what may benefit both myself and the worlds. Vasistha continued. The Pitris replied, saying, O throw this fire that is born of thy wrath and that desireth to consume the worlds, into the waters. That will do thee good. The worlds, indeed, are all dependent on water, as their elementary cause. Every juicy substance containeth water, indeed the whole universe is made of water. Therefore, O thou best of Brahmanas, cast thou this fire of thy wrath into the waters. If, therefore, thou desirest it, O Brahmana, let this fire born of thy wrath abide in the great ocean, consuming the waters thereof, for it hath been said that the worlds are made of water. In this way, O thou sinless one, thy word will be rendered true, and the worlds with the gods will not be destroyed. Vasistha continued, Then, O child, Orva cast the fire of his wrath into the abode of Varuna. And that fire which consumeth the waters of the great ocean, became like unto a large horse's head, which persons conversant with the Vedas call by the name of Vadvamukha. And emitting itself from that mouth it consumeth the waters of the mighty ocean. Blessed be thou. It behoveth not thee, therefore, to destroy the worlds, O thou Parasra, who art acquainted with the higher regions, thou foremost of wise men. Thus ends the 182nd section in the Chaitraratha Parva of the Adi Parva. The Mahabharata of Krishna-Dwaipayana Vyasa. Adi Parva. Section 183, Chaitraratha Parva continued. The Gandharv continued, the Brahmana sage, Parasra, thus addressed by the illustrious Vasistha, restrained his wrath from destroying the worlds. But the Rishi Parasra, endued with great energy, the son of Sakri, the foremost of all persons acquainted with the Vedas, performed a grand Rakshasa sacrifice, and remembering the slaughter of his father, Sakri, the great Muni began to consume the Rakshasas, young and old, in the sacrifice he performed. And Vasistha did not restrain him from this slaughter of the Rakshasa, from the determination of not obstructing this second vow of his grandson. And in that sacrifice the great Muni Parasara sat before 3 blazing fires, himself like unto a 4th fire. And the son of Sakri, like the sun just emerged from the clouds, illuminated the whole firmament by that stainless sacrifice of his, into which large were the libations poured of clarified butter. Then Vasistha and the other rishis regarded that Muni blazing with his own energy as if he were the second sun. Then the great Rishi Atri, of liberal soul, desirous of ending that sacrifice, an achievement highly difficult for others, came to that place. And there also came, O thou slayer of all foes, Puyastya and Pulaha, and Kratu, the performer of many great sacrifices, all influenced by the desire of saving the Rakshasas. And, O thou bull of the Bharata race, Puyastya then, seeing that many Rakshasas had already been slain, told these words unto Parasra, that oppressor of all enemies, there is no obstruction, I hope, to this sacrifice of thine, O child. Takest thou any pleasure, O child, in this slaughter of even all those innocent Rakshasas that know nothing of thy father's death? It behoveth thee not to destroy any creatures thus. This, O child, is not the occupation of a Brahmana devoted to asceticism. Peace is the highest virtue. Therefore, O Parasra, establish thou peace. How hast thou, O Parasra, being so superior, engaged thyself in such a sinful practice? It behoveth not thee to transgress against Sakri himself, who was well acquainted with all rules of morality. It behoveth not thee to extirpate any creatures. O descendant of Vasistha's race, that which befell thy father was brought about by his own curse. It was for his own fault that Sakri was taken hence unto heaven. O Muni, no Rakshasa was capable of devouring Sakri. He himself provided for his own death. And O Parasra, Viswamitra was only a blind instrument in that matter. Both Sakri and Kalmanshpada, having ascended to heaven, are enjoying great happiness. And the other sons also of the great Rishi Vasistha, who were younger than Sakri, are even now enjoying themselves with the celestials. And O child, O offspring of Vasistha's son, thou hast also been, in this sacrifice, only an instrument in the destruction of these innocent Rakshasas. O, blessed be thou! Abandon this sacrifice of thine. Let it come to an end. The Gandharv continued, thus addressed by Puyastya, as also by the intelligent Vasistha, that mighty Muni the son of Sakri then brought that sacrifice to an end. And the Rishi cast the fire that he had ignited for the purpose of the Rakshasas' sacrifice into the deep woods on the north of the Himamvata. And that fire may be seen to this day consuming Rakshasas and trees and stones in all seasons. Thus ends the 183rd section in the Chaitraratha Parva of the Adi Parva. The Mahabharata of Krishna-Dwaipayana Vyasa. Adi Parva. Section 184, Chakraratha Parva continued. Arjuna asked, "What for, O Gandharv, did King Kalmanshpada command his queen to go unto that foremost of all persons conversant with the Vedas, the master Vasistha? Why also did that illustrious and great Rishi Vasistha himself, who was acquainted with every rule of morality, know a woman he should not have known? O friend, was this an act of sin on the part of Vasistha? It behoved thee to remove the doubts I entertain and refer to thee for solution." The Gandharv replied, saying, "O irrepressible Dhananjaya, listen to me as I answer the question thou hast asked in respect of Vasistha and King Kalmanshpada, that cherisher of friends. O thou best of the Bharatas, I have told thee all about the curse of King Kalmanshpada by Sakri, the illustrious son of Vasistha. Brought under the influence of the curse, that smiter of all foes King Kalmanshpada, with eyes whirling in anger, went out of his capital accompanied by his wife. And entering with his wife the solitary woods, the king began to wander about. And one day, while the king, under the influence of the curse, was wandering through that forest abounding in several kinds of deer and various other animals, and overgrown with numerous large trees and shrubs and creepers, and resounding with terrible cries, he became exceedingly hungry. And the monarch thereupon began to search for some food. Pinched with hunger, the king at last saw, in a very solitary part of the woods, a Brahmana and his wife enjoying each other. Alarmed at beholding the monarch, the couple ran away, their desire ungratified. Pursuing the retreating pair, the king forcibly seized the Brahmana. Then the Brahmani, beholding her lord seized, addressed the monarch, saying, "Listen to what I say, O monarch of excellent woes. It is known all over the world that thou art born in the solar race, and that thou art ever vigilant in the practice of morality and devoted to the service of thy superiors. It behoveth thee not to commit sin, O thou irrepressible one, deprived though thou hast been of thy senses by the Rishis' curse. My season hath come, and wishful of husband's company I was connected with him. I have not been gratified yet. Be propitious unto us, O thou best of kings. Liberate my husband." The monarch, however, without listening to her cries, cruelly devoured her husband like a tiger devouring its desirable prey. Possessed with wrath at this sight, the tears that woman shed blazed up like fire and consumed everything in that place. And, O thou oppressor of all foes, the illustrious and exalted Vasistha by his ascetic power and spiritual insight immediately knew all, and long after this, when the king became freed from his curse, he approached his wife Madhyanti when her season came. But Madhyanti softly sent him away. Under the influence of passion, the monarch had no recollection of that curse. Hearing, however, the words of his wife, the best of kings became terribly alarmed. And recollecting the curse, he repented bitterly of what he had done. It was for this reason, O thou best of men, that the monarch, infected with the Brahmana's curse, appointed Vasistha to beget a son upon his queen. And, O thou oppressor of all foes, the illustrious and exalted Vasistha by his ascetic power and spiritual insight immediately knew all, and long after this, when the king became freed from his curse, he approached his wife Madhyanti when her season came. But Madhyanti softly sent him away. Under the influence of passion, the monarch had no recollection of that curse. Hearing, however, the words of his wife, the best of kings became terribly alarmed. And recollecting the curse, he repented bitterly of what he had done. It was for this reason, O thou best of men, that the monarch, infected with the Brahmana's curse, appointed Vasistha to beget a son upon his queen. Thus ends the 184th section in the Chaitra Parva of the Adi Parva. The Mahabharata of Krishna-Dwaipayana Vyasa. Adi Parva. Section 185, Chakraratha Parva continued. Arjuna asked, O Gangav, thou art acquainted with everything. Tell us, therefore, which Veda-knowing Brahmana is worthy to be appointed as our priest. The Gangav replied, there is in these woods a shrine of the name of Utkochka. Dvaimya, the younger brother of Devala, is engaged there in ascetic penances. Appoint him, if ye desire, your priest. Vasampayana said. Then Arjuna, highly pleased with everything that had happened, gave unto that Gangav his weapon of fire with befitting ceremonies. And addressing him, the Pandav also said, O thou best of Gandhava, let the horses thou givest us remain with thee for a time. When the occasion cometh, we will take them from thee. Blessed be thou. Then the Gandhav and the Pandavas, respectfully saluting each other, left the delightful banks of the Bhagirathi and went wheresoever they desired. Then, O Bharata, the Pandavas wending to Utkochka, the sacred asylum of Dvaimya, installed Dvaimya as their priest. And Dvaimya, the foremost of all conversant with the Vedas, receiving them with presents of wild fruits and edible roots, consented to become their priest. And the Pandavas with their mother forming the sixth of the company, having obtained that Brahmana as their priest, regarded their sovereignty and kingdom as already regained, and the daughter of Panchala king as already obtained in the Swayamvara. And those bulls of the Bharata race, having obtained the master Dvaimya as their priest, also regarded themselves as placed under a powerful protector. And the high-souled Dvaimya, acquainted with the true meaning of the Vedas and every rule of morality, becoming the spiritual preceptor of the virtuous Pandavas, made them his Yajmanas, spiritual disciples. And that Brahmana, beholding those heroes endued with intelligence and strength and perseverance like unto the celestials, regarded them as already restored, by virtue of their own accomplishments, to their sovereignty and kingdom. Then those kings of men, having had benedictions uttered upon them by that Brahmana, resolved to go, accompanied by him, to the Swayamvara of the princes of Panchala. Thus ends the 185th section in the Chakraratha Parva of the Adi Parva. The Mahabharata of Krishna-Dwaipayana Vyasa. Adi Parva. Section 186, Swayamvara Parva. Vasampayana said, then those tigers among men, those brothers the 5 Pandavas, set out for Panchala to behold that country and Draupadi and the festivities, in view of her marriage. And those tigers among men, those oppressors of all enemies, in going along with their mother, saw on the way numerous Brahmanas proceeding together. And those Brahmanas who were all Brahmacharis, beholding the Pandavas, O king, asked them, where are ye going to? Whence also are ye come? And Yudhishthira replied unto them, saying, Ye bulls among Brahmanas, know ye that we are uterine brothers proceeding together with our mother. We are coming even from Ekachakra. The Brahmanas then said, Go ye this very day to the abode of Drupta in the country of the Panchalas. A great Swayamvara takes place there, on which a large sum of money will be spent. We also are proceeding thither. Let us all go together. Extraordinary festivities will take place in Drupta's abode. The illustrious Yajnasena, otherwise called Drupta, had a daughter risen from the center of the sacrificial altar, of eyes like lotus petals and of faultless features, endued with youth and intelligence. She is extremely beautiful. And the slender-waisted Draupadi of every feature perfectly faultless, and whose body imitate a fragrance like unto that of the blue lotus for 2 full miles around, is the sister of the strong-armed Drishtadayumna, gifted with great prowess, the would-be slayer of Drona, who was born with natural mail and sword and bow and arrows from the blazing fire, himself like unto the second fire. And that daughter of Yajnasena will select a husband from among the invited princes. And we are repairing thither to behold her, and the festivities on the occasion, like unto the festivities of heaven. And to that Swayamvara will come from various lands kings and princes who are performers of sacrifices, in which the presents to the Brahmanas are large, who are devoted to study, are holy, illustrious, and of rigid vows, who are young and handsome, and who are mighty car warriors and accomplished in arms, desirous of winning the hand of the maiden. Those monarchs will all give away much wealth and kin and food and other articles of enjoyment. And taking all they will give away and witnessing the Swayamvara, and enjoying the festivities, we shall go wheresoever we like. And there will also come unto that Swayamvara, from various countries, actors, and bards singing the panegyrics of kings, and dancers, and reciters of Puranas, and heralds, and powerful athletes. And beholding all these sights, and taking what will be given away, ye illustrious ones, ye will return with us. Ye are all handsome and like unto the celestials. Beholding ye, Krishna may, by chance, choose some one amongst ye superior to the rest. This thy brother of mighty arms and handsome and endued with beauty also, engaged in athletic encounters, may, by chance, earn great wealth. On hearing these words of the Brahmanas, Yudhishthira replied, Ye Brahmanas, we all will go with ye to witness that maiden's Swayamvara, that excellent jubilee. Thus ends the 186th section in the Swayamvara Parva of the Adi Parva. The Mahabharata of Krishna-Dwaipayana Vyasa. Adi Parva. Section 187, Swayamvara Parva continued. Vasampayana said, thus addressed by the Brahmanas, the Pandavas, O Janamejaya, proceeded towards the country of the southern Panchalas ruled over by the king Drupada. And on their way those heroes beheld the illustrious Dwaipayana, that Muni of pure soul, and perfectly sinless. And duly saluting the Rishi and saluted by him, after their conversation was over, commanded by him they proceeded to Drupada's abode. And those mighty chariot fighters proceeded by slow stages, staying for some time within those beautiful woods and by fine lakes that they beheld along their way. Devoted to study, pure in their practices, amiable, and sweet speech, the Pandavas at last entered the country of the Panchalas. And beholding the capital, as also the fort, they took up their quarters in the house of a potter. Adopting the Brahmanical profession, they began to lead an eleemosynary life. And no men recognized those heroes during their stay in Drupada's capital. Yajnasena always cherished the desire of bestowing his daughter on Kiriti, Arjuna, the son of Pandu. But he never spoke of it to anybody. And O Janamejaya, the king of Panchala, thinking of Arjuna, caused a very stiff bow to be made that was incapable of being bent by any except Arjuna. Causing some machinery to be erected in the sky, the king set up a mark attached to that machinery. And Drupada said, he that will string this bow and with these well-adorned arrows shoot the mark above the machine shall obtain my daughter. Vasampayana continued. With these words King Drupada proclaimed the Swayamvara. On hearing of them, O Bharata, the kings of other lands came to his capital. And there came also many illustrious rishis desirous of beholding the Swayamvara. And there came also, O king, Duryodhana and the Kurus accompanied by Kama. There also came many superior Brahmanas from every country, and the monarchs who came there were all received with reverence by the illustrious Drupda. Desirous of beholding the Swayamvara, the citizens, roaring like the sea, all took their seats on the platforms that were erected around the amphitheatre. The monarch entered the grand amphitheatre by the northeastern gate. And the amphitheatre, which itself had been erected on an auspicious and level plain to the northeast of Drupda's capital, was surrounded by beautiful mansions. And it was enclosed on all sides with high walls and a moat with arched doorways here and there. The vast amphitheatre was also shaded by canopy of various colors. And resounding with the notes of thousands of trumpets, it was scented with the black aloe and sprinkled all over with water mixed with sandal paste and decorated with garlands of flowers. It was surrounded with high mansions perfectly white and resembling the cloud-kissing peaks of Kailas. The windows of those mansions were covered with networks of gold, the walls were set with diamonds and precious stones, the staircases were easy of ascent, and the floors were covered with costly carpets and cloths. All those mansions adorned with wreaths and garlands of flowers and rendered fragrant with excellent aloes, were all white and spotless, like unto the necks of swans. And the fragrance therefrom could be perceived afar the distance of a yojna, 8 miles. And they were each furnished with 100 doors wide enough to admit a crowd of persons. They were adorned with costly beds and carpets, and beautified with various metals. They resembled the peaks of the Himamvat. And in those 7-storied houses of various sizes dwelt the monarchs invited by Drupda, whose persons were adorned with every ornament and who were possessed with the desire of excelling one another. And the inhabitants of the city and the country who had come to behold Krishna and taken their seats on the excellent platforms erected around, beheld seated within those mansions those lions among kings who were all endued with the energy of great souls. And those exalted sovereigns were all adorned with the fragrant paste of the black aloe. Of great liberality, they were all devoted to Brahma and they protected their kingdoms against all foes. And for their own good deeds they were beloved by the whole world. The Pandavas, too, entering that amphitheatre, sat with the Brahmanas and beheld the unequalled affluence of the king of the Panchalas. And that concourse of princes, Brahmanas, and others, looking gay at the performances of actors and dancers, and in which large presents of every kind of wealth were constantly made, began to swell day by day. And it lasted, O king, several days, till on the 16th day when it was at its full, the daughter of Drupda, O thou bull of the Bharata race, having washed herself clean entered amphitheatre, richly attired and adorned with every ornament and bearing in her hand a dish of gold, whereon were the usual offerings of arghya, and a garland of flowers. Then the priest of the lunar race, a holy Brahmana conversant with all mantras, ignited the sacrificial fire and poured on it with due rites libations of clarified butter and gratifying Agni by these libations and making the Brahmanas utter the auspicious formula of benediction, stopped the musical instruments that were playing all around. And when that vast amphitheatre, O monarch, become perfectly still, Drishtadayumna, possessed of a voice deep as the sound of the kettle drum or the clouds, taking hold of his sister's arm stood in the midst of that concourse, and said, with a voice loud and deep as the roar of the clouds, these charming words of excellent import, Hear ye assembled kings, this is the bow, that is the mark, and these are the arrows. Shoot the mark through the orifice of the machine with these 5 sharpened arrows. Truly do I say that, possessed of lineage, beauty of persons, and strength. Whoever achieveth this great feat shall obtain today this my sister, Krishna, for his wife. Having thus spoken unto the assembled monarchs, Drupada's son then addressed his sister, reciting unto her the names and lineages and achievements of those assembled lords of the earth. Thus ends the 187th section in the Swayamvara Parva of the Adi Parva. The Mahabharata of Krishna-Dwaipayana Vyasa. Adi Parva. Section 188, Swayamvara Parva continued. Drishtadayumna said, Duryodhana, Durvishha, Durmukha and Dushpradharshana, Vivimseti, Vikarn, Saha, and Devsasana, Yuyutsu and Vayuvega and Bhimevegarava, Ugrayudha, Valki, Kankayu, and Virochna, Sukundala, Chitrasena, Suvacha, and Kankadhwaja, Nandaka, and Vahusali, and Tuhanda, and Vikta, these, O sister, and many other mighty sons of Dhritarashtra, all heroes accompanied by Kama, have come for thy hand. Innumerable other illustrious monarchs, all bulls among Kshatriyas, have also come for thee. Sakuni, Sivala, Vriska, and Vrihadvala, these sons of the king Gandhara, have also come. Foremost of all wielders of weapons, the illustrious Aswathaman and Bhoja, adorned with every ornament, have also come for thee. Vrihanta, Manimana, Dandadhra, Satdeva, Jayatsna, Meghsandi, Virata with his two sons Sankha and Uttara, Vardakshemai, Susarma, Senavindu, Suketu with his two sons Sunana and Suvacha, Suchitra, Sukumara Vrika, Satyadriti, Suyadhvaja, Rochamna, Nila, Chitrayudha, Angsumna, Chekitana, the mighty Shrenimana, Chandrasena the mighty son of Samudrasena, Jasanda, Vidanda, and Danda the father and son, Poundraka, Vasudeva, Bhagdakta endued with great energy, Kalinga, Tamralipta, the king of Patana, the mighty Ka warrior Selya, the king of Madra with his son, the heroic Rukmangala, Rukmaratha, Somadeta of the Kuru race with his three sons, all mighty chariot fighters and heroes, Vis, Buri, Burisrava, and Sala, Sudakshima, Kamboja of the Puru race, Vrihadwala, Sushana, Sivi, the son of Ushinara, Pacharanihanta, the king of Karusha, Sankashana, Valedeva, Vasudeva, Krishna, the mighty son of Rukmini, Samvan Charudeshna, the son of Pradyumna with G. Thus ends the 188th section in the Swayamvara Parva of the Adi Parva. The Mahabharata of Krishna-Dwaipayana Vyasa. Adi Parva. Section 189, Swayamvara Parva continued. Vasampayana said, then those youthful princes adorned with earrings, vying with one another, and each regarding himself accomplished in arms and gifted with might, stood up brandishing their weapons, and intoxicated with pride of beauty, prowess, lineage, knowledge, wealth, and youth. They were like Himalayan elephants in the season of Rat, with crowns split from excess of temporal juice, and beholding each other with jealousy and influenced by the god of desire. They suddenly rose up from their royal seats, exclaiming, Krishna shall be mine. And the Kshatriyas assembled in that amphitheatre, each desirous of winning the daughter of Drupada, looked like the celestial, of old, standing round Uma, the daughter of the king of mountains. Afflicted with the shafts of the god of the flowery bow and with hearts utterly lost in the contemplation of Krishna, those princes descended into the amphitheatre for winning the Panchala maiden and began to regard even their best friends with jealousy. And there came also the celestials and their cars, WJTH the Rudras and the Adityas, the Vasis and the twin Aswins, the Swadhas and all the Manvyutas, and Kuvara with Yam walking ahead. And there came also the Daityas and the Suparnas, the great Nagas and the celestial Rishis, the Guhayakas and the Charanas, and Viswavasu and Narda and Parvata, and the principal Gandharvas with the Apsaras, and Halayudha, Valadeva, and Janardana, Krishna, and the chief of the Vrishni, Andaka, and Yadva tribes who obeyed the leadership of Krishna, were also there, viewing the scene. And beholding those elephants in Rakte 5, Pandavas, attracted towards Draupadi like mighty elephants towards a lake overgrown with lotuses, or like fire covered with ashes, Krishna the foremost of Yadu heroes began to reflect. And he said unto Rama, Valadeva, that is Yudhishthira, that is Bhima with Jishnu, Arjuna, and those are the twin heroes. And Rama surveying them slowly cast a glance of satisfaction at Krishna. Biting their nether lips in wrath, the other heroes their sons and grandsons of kings with their eyes and hearts and thoughts set on Krishna, looked with expanded eyes on Draupadi alone without noticing the Pandavas. And the sons of Pritha also, of mighty arms, and the illustrious twin heroes, beholding Draupadi, were all likewise struck by the shafts of Kama. And crowded with celestial rishis and Gandharvas and Suparnas and Nagas and Asuras and Siddhas, and filled with celestial perfumes and scattered over with celestial flowers, and resounding with the kettle drum and the deep hum of infinite voices, and echoing with the softer music of the flute, the veena, and the tabor, the cars of the celestials could scarcely find a passage through the firmament. Then those princes Kama, Duryodhana, Salva, Selya, Aswatma, Kratha, Sunita, Vakra, the ruler of Kalinga and Banga, Pandya, Poundra, the ruler of Videha, the chief of Yavnas, and many other sons and grandsons of kings, sovereigns of territories with eyes like lotus petals, one after another began to exhibit prowess for winning that maiden of unrivaled beauty. Adorned with crowns, garlands, bracelets, and other ornaments, endued with mighty arms, possessed of prowess and vigor and bursting with strength and energy, those princes could not, even in imagination, string that bow of extraordinary stiffness. And, some amongst those kings in exerting with swelling lips each according to his strength, education, skill, and energy, to string that bow, were tossed on the ground and lay perfectly motionless for some time. Their strength spent and their crowns and garlands loosened from their persons, they began to pant for breath, and their ambition of winning that fair maiden was cooled. Tossed by that tough bow, and their garlands and bracelets and other ornaments, disordered, they began to utter exclamations of woe. And that assemblage of monarchs, their hope of obtaining Krishna gone, looked sad and woeful. And beholding the plight of those monarchs, Kama, that foremost of all wielders of the book, went to where the book was, and quickly raising it stringed it soon and placed the arrows on the string, and beholding the son of Surya Kama of the Sutha tribe like unto fire, or Soma, or Surya himself, resolved to shoot the mark. Those foremost of bowmen, the sons of Pandu, regarded the mark as already shot and brought down upon the ground. But seeing Kama, Draupadi loudly said, I will not select a Sutha for my lord. Then Kama, laughing in vexation and casting a glance at the sun, threw aside the bow already drawn to a circle. Then when all those Kshatriyas gave up the task, the heroic king of the Chedis, mighty as Yam, Pluto, himself the illustrious and determined Sisupala, the son of Damgosa, in endeavoring to string the bow, himself fell upon his knees on the ground. Then King Jasantha, endued with great strength and powers, approaching the bow, stood there for some moment, fixed and motionless like a mountain. Tossed by the bow, he too fell upon his knees on the ground, and rising up, the monarch left the amphitheatre for, returning to, his kingdom. Then the great hero Salya, the king of Madra, endued with great strength, in endeavoring to string the bow, fell upon his knees on the ground. At last, when in that assemblage consisting of highly respectable people, all the monarchs had become subjects of derisive talk, that foremost of heroes Jishnu, the son of Kunti, desired to string the bow and placed the arrows on the bowstring. Thus ends the 189th section in the Swayamvara Parva of the Adi Parva. The Mahabharata of Krishna-Dwaipayana Vyasa. Adi Parva. Section 190, Swayamvara Parva continued. Vasampayana continued. When all the monarchs had desisted from stringing that bow, the high-souled Jishnu arose from among the crowd of Brahmanas seated in that assembly, and beholding Parth possessing the complexion of Indra's banner, advancing towards the bow, the principal Brahmanas shaking their deerskins raised a loud clamor, and while some were displeased, there were others that were well pleased. And some there were, possessed of intelligence and foresight, who addressing one another said, Ye Brahmanas, how can a Brahmana, stripling unpracticed in arms and weak in strength, string that bow which such celebrated Kshatriyas as Salya and others endued with might and accomplished in the science and practice of arms could not? If he doth not achieve success in this untried task which he hath undertaken from a spirit of boyish unsteadiness, the entire body of Brahmanas here will be ridiculous in the eyes of the assembled monarchs. Therefore, forbid this Brahmana that he may not go to string the bow which he even now desirous of doing from vanity, childish daring, or mere unsteadiness. Others replied, We shall not be ridiculous, nor shall we incur the disrespect of anybody or the displeasure of the sovereigns. Some remarked, This handsome youth is even like the trunk of a mighty elephant, whose shoulders and arms and thighs are so well built, who in patience looks like the Himamvat, whose gait is even like that of the lion, and whose prowess seems to be like that of an elephant in wrath, and who is so resolute, will, it is probable, accomplish this feat. He has strength and resolution. If he had none, he would never go of his own accord. Besides, there is nothing in the three worlds that Brahmanas of all mortal men cannot accomplish. Abstaining from all food or living upon air or eating of fruits, persevering in their woes, and emaciated and weak, Brahmanas are ever strong in their own energy. One should never disregard a Brahmana whether his acts be right or wrong, by supposing him incapable of achieving any task that is great or little, or that is fraught with bliss or woe. Rama the son of Jamdagni defeated in battle all the Kshatriyas. Agastya by his Brahma energy drank of the fathomless ocean. Therefore, say ye, let this youth bend the bow and string it with ease, and many said, So be it. And the Brahmanas continued speaking unto one another these and other words. Then Arjuna approached the bow and stood there like a mountain. And walking round that bow, and bending his head unto that giver of boons Lord Isna, and remembering Krishna also, he took it up. And that bow which Rukma, Sunita, Vakra, Radha's son, Duryodhana, Salya, and many other kings accomplished in the science and practice of arms, could not even with great exertion, string, Arjuna the son of Indra, that foremost of all persons endued with energy and like unto the younger brother of Indra, Vishnu, in might, stringed in the twinkling of an eye. And taking up the 5 arrows, he shot the mark and caused it to fall down on the ground through the hole in the machine above which it had been placed. Then there arose a loud uproar in the firmament, and the amphitheatre also resounded with a loud clamour, and the gods showered celestial flowers on the head of Parth the slayer of foes. And thousands of Brahmanas began to wave their upper garments in joy. And all around, the monarchs who had been unsuccessful, uttered exclamations of grief and despair. And flowers were rained from the skies all over the amphitheatre. And the musicians struck up in concert. Bards and heralds began to chant in sweet tones the praises of the hero who accomplished the feat. And beholding Arjuna, Drupda that slayer of foes, was thrilled with joy. And the monarch desired to assist with his forces the hero if the occasion arose, and when the uproar was at its height, Yudhishthira, the foremost of all virtuous men, accompanied by those first of men the twins, hastily left the amphitheatre for returning to his temporary home. And Krishna, beholding the mark shot and beholding Parth a bow like unto Indra himself, who had shot the mark, was filled with joy, and approached the son of Kunti with a white robe and a garland of flowers. And Arjuna, the accomplisher of inconceivable feats, having won Draupadi by less success in the amphitheatre, was saluted with reverence by all the Brahmanas, and he soon after left the lists followed close by her who thus became his wife. Thus ends the 190th section in the Swayamvara Parva of the Adi Parva. The Mahabharata of Krishna-Dwaipayana Vyasa. Adi Parva. Section 191, Swayamvara Parva continued. Vasampayana said, when the king, Drupda, expressed his desire of bestowing his daughter on that Brahmana, who had shot the mark, all those monarchs who had been invited to the Swayamvara, looking at one another, were suddenly filled with wrath. And they said, passing us by and treating the assembled monarchs as straw, this Drupda desired to bestow his daughter, that first of women, on a Brahmana. Having planted the tree, he cutteth it down when it is about to bear fruit. The wretch regardeth us not, therefore let us slay him. He deserveth not our respect nor the veneration due to age. Owing to such qualities of his, we shall, therefore, slay this wretch that insulteth all kings, along with his son. Inviting all the monarchs and entertaining them with excellent food, he disregarded us at last. In this assemblage of monarchs like unto a conclave of the celestials, doth he not see a single monarch equal unto himself? The Vedic declaration is well known that the Swayamvara is for the Kshatriyas. The Brahmanas have no claim in respect of a selection of husband by a Kshatriya damsel. Or, ye kings, if this damsel desireth not to select any one of us as her lord, let us cast her into the fire and return to our kingdoms. As regards this Brahmana, although he hath, from officiousness or avarice, done this injury to the monarchs, he should not yet be slain, for our kingdoms, lives, treasures, sons, grandsons, and whatever other wealth we have, all exist for Brahmanas. Something must be done here, even unto him, so that from fear of disgrace and the desire of maintaining what properly belongeth unto each order, other Swayamvaras may not terminate in this way. Having addressed one another thus, those tigers among monarchs endued with arms like unto spiked iron misses, took up their weapons and rushed at Drupda to slay him then and there. And Drupda, beholding those monarchs all at once rushing towards him in anger with bows and arrows, sought, from fear, the protection of the Brahmanas. But those mighty bowmen, Bhima and Arjuna, of the Pandavas, capable of chastising all foes, advanced to oppose those monarchs rushing towards them impetuously like elephants in the season of wrath. Then the monarchs with gloved ringers and upraised weapons rushed in anger at the Kuru princes, Bhima and Arjuna to slay them. Then the mighty Bhima of extraordinary achievements, endued with the strength of thunder, tore up like an elephant a large tree and divested it of its leaves. And with that tree, the strong-armed Bhima the son of Pritha, that grinder of all foes, stood, like unto the make-bearing king of the dead, Yam, armed with his fierce make, near Arjuna that bull amongst men. And beholding that feat of his brother, Jishnu of extraordinary intelligence and himself also of inconceivable feats, wondered much. And equal unto Indra himself in achievements, shaking of all fear he stood with his bow ready to receive those assailants. And beholding those feats of both Jishnu and his brother, Damodara, Krishna, of superhuman intelligence and inconceivable feats, addressing his brother, Halayudha, Valadeva, of fierce energy, said, that hero there, of tread like that of a mighty lion, who draweth the large bow in his hand 4 full cubits in length, is Arjuna. There is no doubt, O Sankarsana, about this, if I am Vasudeva. That other hero who having speedily torn up the tree hath suddenly become ready to drive off the monarchs is Vrikodra. For no one in the world, except Vrikodra, could today perform such a feat in the field of battle. And O Achyuta, that other youth of eyes like unto lotus petals of full 4 cubits height, of gait like that of a mighty lion, and humble withal, of fair complexion and prominent and shining nose, who had, a little before, left the amphitheatre, is Dharma's son, Yudhishthira. The 2 other youths, like unto Kartikeya, are, I suspect, the sons of the twin Ashwinas. I heard that the sons of Pandu, along with their mother Pritha, had all escaped from the conflagration of the house of Lak. Then Halayudha, of complexion like unto that of clouds uncharged with rain, addressing his younger brother, Krishna, said with great satisfaction, O lamb, happy to hear, as I do from sheer good fortune, that our father's sister Pritha with the foremost of the Kaurava princes have all escaped from death. Thus ends the 191st section in the Swayamvara Petwa of the Adiparva. The Mahabharata of Krishna-Dwaipayana Vyasa. Adiparva. Section 192, Swayamvara Parva continued. Vasampayana said, then those bulls among Brahmanas Shakit.g their deerskins and water pots made of coconut shells exclaimed, fear not, we will fight the foe. Arjuna smilingly addressing those Brahmanas exclaiming thus, said, stand ye aside as spectators of the fray. Showering hundreds of arrows furnished with straight points even I shall check, like snakes with mantras, all those angry monarchs. Having said this, the mighty Arjuna taking up the bow he had obtained as dower accompanied by his brother Bhima stood immovable as a mountain. And beholding those Kshatriyas who were ever furious in battle with Kama ahead, the heroic brothers rushed fearlessly at them like 2 elephants rushing against a hostile elephant. Then those monarchs eager for the fight fiercely exclaimed, the slaughter in battle of one desiring to fight is permitted. And saying this, the monarchs suddenly rushed against the Brahmanas. And Kama endued with great energy rushed against Jishnu for fight. And Salya the mighty king of Madras rushed against Bhima like an elephant rushing against another for the sake of a she-elephant in heat, while Duryodhana and others engaged with the Brahmanas, skirmished with them lightly and carelessly. Then the illustrious Arjuna beholding Kama the son of Vikatana, Surya, advancing towards him, drew his tough bow and pierced him with his sharp arrows. And the impetus of those whetted arrows furnished with fierce energy made Radheya, Kama, faint. Recovering consciousness, Kama attacked Arjuna with greater care than before. Then Kama and Arjuna, both foremost of victorious warriors, desirous of vanquishing each other, fought madly on. And such was the lightness of hand they both displayed that, each enveloped by the other's shower of arrows, they both became invisible unto the spectators of their encounter. Behold the strength of my arms. Mark how I have counteracted that feat. Those the words intelligible to heroes alone, in which they addressed each other. And incensed at finding the strength and energy of Arjuna's arms unequaled on the earth, Kama the son of Surya fought with greater vigor. And parrying all those impetuous arrows shot at him by Arjuna, Kama sent up a loud shout. And this feat of his was applauded by all the warriors. Then addressing his antagonist, Kama said, O thou of foremost of Brahmanas, I am gratified to observe the energy of thy arms that note no relaxation in battle, and thy weapons themselves fit for achieving victory. Art thou the embodiment of the science of weapons, or art thou Rama, that best of Brahmanas, or Indra himself, or Indra's younger brother Vishnu, called also Achyuta, who for disguising himself hath assumed the form of a Brahmana, and mustering such energy of arms fighteth with me? No other person except the husband himself of Sachi or Kiriti the son of Pandu is capable of fighting with me when I am angry on the field of battle. Then hearing those words of his, Falguna replied, saying, O Kama, I am neither the science of arms, personified, nor Rama endued with superhuman powers. I am only a Brahmana who is the foremost of all warriors, of all wielders of weapons. By the grace of my preceptor I have become accomplished in the Brahma and the Purandara weapons. I am here to vanquish thee in battle. Therefore, O hero, wait a little. Vasampayana continued, thus addressed by Arjuna, Kama the adopted son of Radha desisted from the fight, for that mighty chariot fighter thought that Brahma energy is ever invincible. Meanwhile on another part of the field, the mighty heroes Selya and Vrikodra, well skilled in battle and possessed of great strength and proficiency, challenging each other, engaged in fight like two elephants in wrath. And they struck each other with their clenched fist and knees, and sometimes pushing each other forward, and sometimes dragging each other near, sometimes throwing each other down face downward, and sometimes on the sides. They fought on, striking each other at times with their clenched fists, and encountering each other with blows hard as the clash of two masses of granite. The lists rung with the sounds of their combat. Fighting with each other thus for a few seconds, Bhima the foremost of the Kuru heroes, taking up Selya on his arms, hurled him to a distance. And Bhimsena, that bull amongst men, surprised all by the dexterity of his feet, for though he threw Selya on the ground he did it without hurting him much. And when Selya was thus thrown down and Kama was struck with fear, the other monarchs were all alarmed. And they hastily surrounded Bhima and exclaimed, Surely these bulls amongst Brahmanas are excellent warriors. Ascertain in what race they have been born and where they abide. Who can encounter Kama the son of Radha in fight, except Rama or Drona, or Kiriti, the son of Pandu? Who also can encounter Duryodhana in battle except Krishna the son of Devaki, and Kripa the son of Sadhavan? Who also can overthrow in battle Selya, that first of mighty warriors, except the hero Valadeva or Vrikodra, the son of Pandu, or the heroic Duryodhana? Let us, therefore, desist from this fight with the Brahmanas. Indeed, Brahmanas, however offending, should yet be ever protected. And first let us ascertain who these are, for after we have done that we may cheerfully fight with them. Vasampayana continued, and Krishna, having beheld that feat of Bhima, believed them both to be the son of Kunti. And gently addressing the assembled monarch, saying, This maiden hath been justly acquired by the Brahmana, he induced them to abandon the fight. Accomplished in battle, those monarchs then desisted from the fight. And those best of monarchs then returned to their respective kingdoms, wandering much. And those who came there went away saying, The festive scene hath terminated in the victory of the Brahmanas. The princess of Panchala hath become the bride of a Brahmana. And surrounded by Brahmanas dressed in skins of deer and other wild animals, Bhima and Dhananjaya passed with difficulty out of the throng. And those heroes among men, mangled by the enemy and followed by Krishna, on coming at last out of that throng, looked like the full moon and the sun emerged from the clouds. Meanwhile Kunti, seeing that her sons were late in returning from their eleemosynary round, was filled with anxiety. She began to think of various evils having overtaken her son. At one time she thought that the sons of Dhritarashtra, having recognized her children, had slain them. Next she feared that some cruel and strong Rakshasas endued with powers of deception had slain them. And she asked herself, could the illustrious Vyasa himself, who had directed my sons to come to Panchala, have been guided by perverse intelligence? Thus reflected Pritha in consequence of her affection for her children. Then in the stillness of the late afternoon, Jishnu, accompanied by a body of Brahmanas, entered the abode of the potter, like the cloud-covered sun appearing on a cloudy day. Thus ends the 192nd section in the Swayamvara Parva of the Adi Parva. The Mahabharata of Krishna-Dwaipayana Vyasa. Adi Parva. Section 193, Swayamvara Parva continued. Vasampayana said, Then those illustrious sons of Pritha, on returning to the potter's abode, approached their mother. And those first of men represented Yajnasni unto their mother as the alms they had obtained that day. And Kunti, who was there within the room and saw not her sons, replied, saying, Enjoy ye all, what ye have obtained. Be the moment after, she beheld Krishna, and then she said, Oh, what have I said? And anxious from fear of sin, and reflecting how everyone could be extricated from the situation, she took the cheerful Yajnasni by the hand, and approaching Yudhishthira said, The daughter of King Yajnasena, upon being represented to me by thy younger brothers as the alms they had obtained, from ignorance, O king, I said what was proper, viz. Enjoy ye all what hath been obtained. O thou bull of the Kuru race, tell me how my speech may not become untrue, how sin may not touch the daughter of the king of Panchala, and how also she may not become uneasy. Vasampayana continued, thus addressed by his mother, that hero among men, that foremost scion of the Kuru race, the intelligent king, Yudhishthira, reflecting for a moment, consoled Kunti, and addressing Dhananjaya, said, By thee, O Falguna, hath Yajnasni been won. It is proper, therefore thou shouldst wed her. O thou withstander of all foes, igniting the sacred fire, take thou her hand with due rites. Arjuna, hearing this, replied, O king, do not make me a participator in sin. Thy behest is not conformable to virtue. That is the path followed by the sinful. Thou shouldst wed first, then the strong-armed Bhima of inconceivable feats, then myself, then Nakula, and last of all, Satdeva endued with great activity. Both Vrikodra and myself, and the twins and this maiden also, all await, O monarch, thy commands. When such is the state of things, do that, after reflection which would be proper, and conformable virtue, and productive of fame, and beneficial unto the king of Panchala. All of us are obedient to thee. O, command us as thou likest. Vasampayana continued, hearing these words of Jishnu, so full of respect and affection, the Pandavas all cast their eyes upon the princes of Panchala. And the princes of Panchala also looked at them all. And casting their glances on the illustrious Krishna, those princes looked at one another. And taking their seats, they began to think of Draupadi alone. Indeed, after those princes of immeasurable energy had looked at Draupadi, the god of desire invaded their hearts and continued to crush all their senses. As the ravishing beauty of Panchali, who had been modeled by the Creator himself, was superior to that of all other women on earth, it could captivate the heart of every creature. And Yudhishthira, the son of Kunti, beholding his younger brothers, understood what was passing in their minds. And that bull among men immediately recollected the words of Krishna-Dwaipayana. And the king then, from fear of a division amongst the brothers, addressing all of them, said, the auspicious Draupadi shall be the common wife of us all. Vasampayana continued, the sons of Pandu then, hearing those words of their eldest brother, began to revolve them in their minds in great cheerfulness. The hero of the Vrishni race, Krishna, suspecting the 5 persons he had seen at the Swayamvara to be none else than yet 2 heroes of the Kuru race, came accompanied by the son of Rohini, Valadeva, to the house of the potter where those foremost of men had taken up their quarters. On arriving there, Krishna and Valadeva beheld seated in that potter's house a Jatasatru, Yudhishthira, of well-developed and long arms, and his younger brothers passing the splendor of fire sitting around him. Then Vasudeva, approaching that foremost of virtuous men, the son of Kunti, and touching the feet of that prince of the Ajamida race, said, I am Krishna. And the son of Rohini, Valadeva, also approaching Yudhishthira, did the same. And the Pandavas, beholding Krishna and Valadeva, began to express great delight. And, O thou foremost of the Bharata race, those heroes of the Yadu race thereafter touched also the feet of Kunti, their father's sister. And Ajatasatru, that foremost of the Karu race, beholding Krishna, inquired after his well-being and asked, How, O Vasudeva, hast thou been able to trace us, as we are living in disguise? And Vasudeva, smilingly answered, O king, fire, even if it is covered, can be known. Who else among men, than the Pandavas could exhibit such might? Ye resistors of all foes, ye sons of Pandu, by sheer good fortune have ye escaped from that fierce fire. And it is by sheer good fortune alone that the wicked son of Dhritarashtra and his counselors have not succeeded in accomplishing their wishes. Blessed be ye, and grow ye in prosperity like a fire in a cave, gradually growing and spreading itself all around. And lest any of the monarchs recognize ye, let us return to our tent. Then, obtaining Yudhishthira's leave, Krishna of prosperity, knowing no decrease, accompanied by Valadeva, hastily went away from the potter's abode. Thus ends the 193rd section in the Swayamvara Parva of the Adi-Parva. The Mahabharata of Krishna-Dwaipayana Vyasa. Adi-Parva. Section 194, Swayamvara Parva continued. Vasampayana said, when the Kuru princes, Bhima and Arjuna, were wending towards the abode of the potter, Drishtadayumna, the Panchala prince followed them. And sending away all his attendants, he concealed himself in some part of the potter's house, unknown to the Pandavas. Then Bhima, that grinder of all foes, and Jishnu, and the illustrious twins, on returning from their eleemosynary round in the evening, cheerfully gave everything unto Yudhishthira. Then the kind-hearted Kunti, addressing the daughter of Drupda, said, O amiable one, take thou first a portion from this and devote it to the gods and give it away to Brahmanas, and feed those that desire to eat and give unto those who have become our guests. Divide the rest into 2 halves. Give one of these unto Bhima, O amiable one, for this strong youth of fair complexion equal unto a king of elephants, this hero always eateth much. And divide the other half into 6 parts, 4 for these youths, 1 for myself, and 1 for thee. Then the princess, hearing those instructive words of her mother-in-law, cheerfully did all that she had been directed to do. And those heroes then all ate of the food prepared by Krishna. Then Sahdeva, the son of Madri, endued with great activity, spread on the ground a bed of kusa grass. Then those heroes, each spreading their own his deerskin, laid themselves down to sleep. And those foremost of the Kuru princes lay down with heads towards the south. And Kunti laid herself down along the line of their heads, and Krishna along that of their feet. And Krishna, though she lay with the sons of Pandu on that bed of kusa grass along the line of their feet as if she were their nether pillow, grieved not in her heart nor thought disrespectfully of those bulls amongst the Kurus. Then those heroes began to converse with one another. And the conversations of those princes, each worthy to lead an army, was exceedingly interesting, they being upon celestial weapons, and cars, and elephants, and swords and arrows, and battle axes. And the son of the Panchala king listened, from his place of concealment, unto all they said. And all those who were with him beheld Krishna in that state. When morning came, the prince Drishtadayumna set out from his place of concealment with great haste in order to report to Drupda in detail all that had happened at the potter's abode, and all that he had heard those heroes speak amongst themselves during the night. The king of Panchala had been sad because he knew not the Pandavas as those who had taken away his daughter. And the illustrious monarch asked Drishtadayumna on his return, O, where hath Krishna gone? Who hath taken her away? Hath any Sudra or anybody of mean descent, or hath a tribute-paying Vaisya by taking my daughter away, placed his dirty foot on my head? O son, hath that wreath of flowers been thrown away on a graveyard? Hath any Kshatriya of high birth, or any one of the superior order, Brahmana, obtained my daughter? Hath any one of mean descent, by having won Krishna, placed his left foot on my head? I would not, O son, grieve but feel greatly happy, if my daughter hath been united with part that foremost of men. O thou exalted one, tell me truly who hath won my daughter today? O, are the sons of that foremost of Kurus, Vichitravirya's son alive? Was it Parth, Arjuna, that took up the bow and shot the mark? Thus ends the 194th section in the Swayamvara Parva of the Adi Parva. The Mahabharata of Krishna-Dwaipayana Vyasa. Adi Parva. Section 195 Vavaika Parva continued. Vasampayana said, thus addressed Drishtadayumna, that foremost of the lunar princes, cheerfully said unto his father all that had happened and by whom Krishna had been won. And the prince said, with large, red eyes, attired in deerskin, and resembling a celestial in beauty, the youth who stringed that foremost of bows and brought down to the ground the mark set on high, was soon surrounded by the foremost of Brahmanas, who also offered him their homage for the feat he had achieved. Incapable of bearing the sight of a foe and endued with great activity, he began to exert his prowess. And surrounded by the Brahmanas, he resembled the thunder-wielding Indra standing in the midst of the celestial and the rishis. And like a she-elephant following the leader of a herd, Krishna cheerfully followed that youth, catching hold of his deerskin. Then when the assembled monarchs, incapable of bearing that sight, rose up in wrath and advanced for fight, there rose up another hero who, tearing up a large tree, rushed at that concourse of kings, felling them right and left like Yam himself, smiting down creatures endued with life. Then, O monarch, the assembled kings stood motionless, looked at that couple of heroes, while they, resembling the sun and the moon, taking Krishna with them, left the amphitheatre and wended into the abode of a potter in suburbs of the town, and there at the potter's abode sat a lady like unto a flame of fire, who, I think, is their mother. And around her also sat 3 other foremost of men, each of whom was like unto fire. And the couple of heroes, having approached her, paid homage unto her feet, and they said unto Krishna also to do the same. And keeping Krishna with her, those foremost of men all went the round of eleemosynary visits. Some time after, when they returned, Krishna, taking from them what they had obtained in alms, devoted a portion thereof to the gods, and gave another portion away, in gift, to Brahmanas. And of what remained after this, she gave a portion to that venerable lady, and distributed the rest amongst those 5 foremost of men. And she took a little for herself, and ate it last of all. Then, O monarch, they all laid themselves down for sleep, Krishna lying along the line of their feet as their nether pillow. And the bed on which they lay was made of kusa grass, upon which was spread their deerskins. And before going to sleep they talked on divers subjects in voices deep as of black clouds. The talk of those heroes indicated them to be neither Vaisyas nor Sudras, nor Brahmanas. Without doubt, O monarch, they are bulls amongst Kshatriyas, their discourse having been on military subjects. It seems, O father, that our hope hath been fructified, for we have heard that the sons of Kunti all escaped from the conflagration of the house of Lak. From the way in which the mark was shot down by that youth, and the strength with which the bow was stringed by him, and the manner in which I have heard them talk with one another, proves conclusively, O monarch, that they are the sons of Pritha wandering in disguise. Hearing these words of his son, King Drupda became exceedingly glad, and he sent unto them his priest, directing him to ascertain who they were, and whether they were the sons of the illustrious Pandu. Thus directed, the king's priest went unto them, and applauding them all, delivered the king's message duly, saying, Ye who are worthy of preference in everything, the boon-giving king of the earth Drupda is desirous of ascertaining who ye are. Beholding this one who hath shot down the mark, his joy knoweth no bounds. Giving us all particulars of your family and tribe, place ye your feet on the heads of your foes, and gladden the hearts of the king of Panchala and his men, and mine also. King Pandu was the dear friend of Drupda, and was regarded by him as his counter-self. And Drupda had all along cherished the desire of bestowing this daughter of his upon Pandu as his daughter-in-law. Ye heroes of features perfectly faultless, King Drupda hath all along cherished this desire in his heart, that Arjuna of strong and long arms might wed this daughter of his according to the ordinance. If that hath become possible, nothing could be better, nothing more beneficial, nothing more conducive to fame and virtue, so far as Drupda is concerned. Having said this, the priest remained silent and humbly waited for an answer. Beholding him sitting thus, the king Yudhishthira commanded Bhima, who sat near, saying, "Let water to wash his feet with and the arghya be offered unto this Brahmana. He is kint. Thempi Allah's priest and, therefore, worthy of great respect. We would worship him with more than ordinary reverence." Then, O monarch, Bhima did as directed. Accepting the worship thus offered unto him, the Brahmana with a joyous heart sat at his ease. Then Yudhishthira addressed him and said, "The king of the Panchalas hath, by fixing a special kind of dower, given away his daughter according to the practice of his order and not freely. This hero hath, by satisfying that demand, won the princess. King Drupta, therefore, hath nothing now to say in regard to the race, tribe, family and disposition of him who hath performed that feat. Indeed, all his queries have been answered by the stringing of the bow and the shooting down of the mark. It is by doing what he had directed that this illustrious hero hath brought away Krishna from among the assembled monarchs." Under these circumstances, the king of the lunar race should not indulge in any regrets which can only make him unhappy without mending matters in the least. The desire that King Drupta hath all along cherished will be accomplished for his handsome princess beareth, I think, every auspicious mark. None that is weak in strength could string that bow, and none of mean birth and unaccomplished in arms could have shot down the mark. It behoveth not, therefore, the king of the Panchalas to grieve for his daughter today, nor can anybody in the world unto that act of shooting down the mark. Therefore the king should not grieve for what must take its course." While Yudhishthira was saying all this, another messenger from the king of the Panchalas, coming thither in haste, said, "The nuptial feast is ready." Thus ends the 195th section in the Vavahika Parva of the Adi Parva. The Mahabharata of Krishna-Dwaipayana Vyasa. Adi Parva. Section 196 Vavahika Parva continued. Vasampayana continued, the messenger said, "King Drupta hath, in view of his daughter's nuptials, prepared a good feast for the bridegroom's party. Come ye thither after finishing your daily rites. Krishna's wedding will take place there. Delay ye not. These cars adorned with golden lotuses and drawn by excellent horses are worthy of kings. Riding on them, come ye into the abode of the king of the Panchalas." Vasampayana continued, "Then those bulls among the Kurus, dismissing the priest and causing Kunti and Krishna to ride together on one of those cars, themselves ascended those splendid vehicles and proceeded towards Drupda's palace. Meanwhile, O Bharata, hearing from his priest the words that Yudhishthira had said King Drupta, in order to ascertain the order to which those heroes belonged, kept ready a large collection of articles, required by the ordinance for the wedding of each of the four order. And he kept ready fruits, sanctified garlands, and coats of mail, and shields, and carpets, and kin, and seeds, and various other articles and implements of agriculture, and the king also collected, O monarch, every article appertaining to other arts, and various implements and apparatus of every kind of sport. And he also collected excellent coats of mail and shining shields, and swords and scimitars, of fine temper, and beautiful chariots and horses, and first-class bows and well-adorned arrows, and various kinds of missiles ornamented with gold. And he also kept ready darts and rockets and battle axes and various utensils of war. And there were in that collection beds and carpets and various fine things, and cloths of various sorts. When the party went to Drupda's abode, Kunti, taking with her the virtuous Krishna, entered the inner apartments of the king. The ladies of the king's household with joyous hearts worshipped the queen of the Kurus. Beholding, O monarch, those foremost of men, each possessing the sportive gait of the lion, with deerskins for their upper garments, eyes like unto those of mighty bulls, broad shoulders, and long hanging arms like unto the bodies of mighty snakes, the king, and the king's ministers, and the king's son, and the king's friends and attendants, all became exceedingly glad. Those heroes sat on excellent seats, furnished with footstools without any awkwardness and hesitation. And those foremost of men sat with perfect fearlessness on those costly seats, one after another according to the order of their ages. After those heroes were seated, well-dressed servants male and female, and skillful cooks brought excellent and costly viands worthy of kings on gold and silver plates. Then those foremost of men dined on those dishes and became well pleased. And after the dinner was over, those heroes among men, passing over all other articles, began to observe with interest the various utensils of war. Beholding this, Drupada's son and Drupada himself, along with all his chief ministers of state, understanding the sons of Kunti to be all of royal blood, became exceedingly glad. Thus ends the 196th section in the Vavahika Parva of the Adi Parva. If you enjoyed this audiobook, please like and subscribe to be notified of when new audiobooks are uploaded. Thank you for listening and learning. Shanti.